LA show.
All right, just not tuning in, man. Ike Durtty checking in. Just speaking about culture in Atlanta, Georgia. So what do you think that we can do as a people and as a group? Because that's one thing that I think we talked about earlier, just how even with our independent artists, they get talked bad about while like New York jocks, you know what I'm saying? From Ebro to Hot 97 to Power jocks to Breakfast Club, talk shit about our artists, our young people. But they're quick to go there and get interviewed. They're quick to go to Joe Buttons and get interviewed. How can that change?
Okay, so this is something that I think every radio station and every media outlet needs to be a little bit more mindful of. I think in Atlanta, we do tend to coddle and softball our artists. We don't ask the hard questions that Charlamagne or Big Boy or Ebro will ask. Like, if somebody come in here and be like, so why'd you get caught cheating on your wife? Or why you get locked up? Or, you know, why did you hit this person upside the head with a bottle or whatever, or this person you were sleeping with? Those questions are really what drive the views, and it's not salacious. It's just the truth. Right. Sometimes we want to know the good stuff about our artists, but we also want to know the human side. Everybody isn't perfect. Everybody is not an angel. So those tough questions need to be asked by, you know, all media personalities in the city. You understand what I'm saying? So I think and some blogs do it, like a lot of the blog sites do it, you know what I'm saying, the gossips and the shade rooms and the baller alerts, but they're kind of like, they're not mainstream like TMZ. They're not out in front of the camera. There is no face. If the shade room put like this, if the shade room relocated to Atlanta, Georgia and started creating video content just like TMZ, it would be the black TMZ in like 2 years. It would just take over. But it has to turn that corner. Because they already asked the tough questions now. Right. But if they came to Atlanta and started, and there's so many celebrities filming movies here, doing TV shows here, Shaq's here, the NBA, everybody's here. All the musicians are here. So it's like, it's always content to be filmed. It's always a question to ask somebody. Somebody's always coming out of a nightclub, always going into a restaurant. And I understand that ATL is a place people can feel safe and comfortable too. Right. We don't want to turn it into like that. But at the same time, I think to get our big boy pants, we kind of have to do that.
So basically what you're telling me, like a lot of the personalities, we need to stop trying to be friends with and be overly friendly with these artists and really ask them the tough, like you said, the tough questions, like what's going on in your life? Why did you cheat on your wife? Why did you put your hands on that particular girl? Why did you do this? Why did you do that?
Some questions like that have to get asked, but like I said, I think that, that's the only way. Most media outlets probably won't ask that question, or they'll do allegedly, or they'll have those conversations. But there's a way to ask those questions without being disrespectful. So, and I think, and another thing that I always say is everybody always wants to kind of compare the Charlamagnes and the Ebros of the world and those type of guys. But I'll tell you one thing: it's not easy being those guys, because they do things that they ask questions and they live lives that, you know, to stand up to Birdman or to have those conversations with somebody that's like 3 feet away from you that will smack the crap out of you. Right. But I think that's kind of what makes them. And that's kind of what makes radio. Radio is really like those moments. Like, imagine this. Like, imagine from the Breakfast Club, right? Imagine Birdman goes up there for 2 minutes. Right. He was there for 2 minutes. In 2 minutes, they got 3 or 4 pop culture pieces that last. Forever. They got all 3 of y'all. Put some respect on my name. And they got the meme of him with his arms folded. Right. In 2 minutes. But just that one moment created all that content. That's pop culture. It's those moments. They live for those. Sway had Monique up there, and she said, "Humbly, I'm the most decorated comedian alive." And I know they're going to carry on the interview, but in their mind, they're like, "Yo, we just got gold. Right. Like, we just got something major." So those sound bites are really what circulate and drive views and get everybody to tune in. Controversial artists, controversial subjects that turn the conversation into something. And like I said, it's just like, that's the real side of it. We want to hear about your album. We want to hear about your song coming out. We love your music. But at the same time, if somebody done foreclosed on your crib, cuz, or whatever, then we got to ask those questions. We don't have to disrespect you. But be like, we heard some things. Would you like to talk about those things? Would you like to address those things in a way? You ain't got to be disrespectful, but you're journalists. Everybody's a journalist. So you got to ask the tough questions sometimes.
Do you think Atlanta has pretty much gotten so, I guess, close-knit that they feel like they can't ask those particular questions to certain artists?
I mean, relationships run deep, and relationships are everything. But at the same time, you know, it's a new, like, musically, people can hear music whenever they want to hear music. Right. So it's about the content now. It's really about you and whoever's on the other side of this table having the conversation that you're gonna have, right? And anything other than that is secondary at this point, because I can play whatever song I want to play.
Right.
But it's about having this outlet and this platform to reach mainstream Atlantans or even Americans or globally and take this ATL culture and do that. So at the end of the day, relationships do run deep, and I think people have been a little too friendly. But there's a little bit of journalistic, a little bit more journalism that got to go into the situation.
Right. Okay. So what would you do if you had the opportunity to change and to shift this culture? What would you start with?
I would get younger. And the reason why I say get younger is, and I mentioned this on another program, is a lot of times this generation of artists out right now are not respected by older people.
Right.
And they call them mumble rappers. But so was Little John when we was jamming to Little John 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
He was just yelling.
Right. It was like, that's just BS. We don't know none of that. But that's not true. It's just our generation and you don't understand it. So when you mention DJs, like I think of, if Envy is a DJ, if you think about Esco, someone like Esco, if Esco had a platform on mainstream radio in Atlanta, he's going to get Drake to come to the radio station.
Right.
He's going to get Future to come to the radio station. The Migos, because he's broken their records.
Right.
The reason that Funkmaster Flex can have those interviews with 50 and Diddy and Herb Gotti is because when they were coming up in the game, he was in the club playing their records.
Right.
So now that he has a platform to create that content and have those real those are guys that know each other.
Right.
So they're gonna ask the tough questions too, because all of them ask the tough questions. But it's also about relationships. So I think all the young culture creators and all the relationships with the artists that you have that are coming up, it needs to get younger to put those people in those positions because you're gonna get those artists in there now because it's more relationship driven than ever. So having the position is one thing, but also having those unique relationships. Say, hey man, like I can get Drake to come down to this radio station because he's not. Because certain people come to town. Like I got hard on a couple of DJs that went out to Wyoming and checked out Kanye, but they didn't get the interview from Kanye. And my point that is like, and I understand that. And some of them said they could have got the interview from Kanye. And if that's the case, you get that interview, regardless of whether or not you could. Or even at the end of the day, Kanye disrespected radio 2 years prior when he did At the Life of Pablo. He was like, F radio, all that. And then he kind of said, there's nice people in radio, but at the same time, my point was he should have had to come and see all of us, see all the radio personalities that he insulted, rather than fly everybody to Wyoming and everything's all good.
Right.
And you make people come and ask those questions. We're not going to play your records because you know what I'm saying? It's fine. Everybody went to Kanye, and Kanye should come to everybody. He should get out of Calabasas, get out of Wyoming, hit Atlanta, hit New Orleans, hit Chicago, Miami, New York, go to those places. Not even New York, but those other markets, Houston, and have those conversations with those DJs.